Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Kat. I'm a wife, a homeschool mom, and an avid reader. For everyone else, welcome back. It is the start of the third week of the Escape the Readathon, and we are still stuck at the Black Cat Carnival and trying to work our way through the buildings to get out. Currently, I am working on the poll pick, and for that one, I am going to read Savage Lands by Stacey Marie Brown. This is the poll pick for the Enchanted Fandom Book Club, and in this one, we have our world, but the Fae world has converged with our world, and in Budapest is like the gate between the two. And we have 19-year-old human Baxley. She's grown up in privilege, but not without heartbreak. She's taken in by General Marcos and lives in a walled city and learns how to live with the worst of Fae and human criminals. But she's going to meet Warwick Farkas, and he's brutal, cruel, arrogant, and as lethal as lore says. And Brexley is just drawn to him. So I'm going to read this and go from there. This is a fantasy romance, which it seems that that's kind of where my reading has been this month. Looking at my what I've read so far and how I've rated things, I think I might be a Fanro girl for at least this month. So I'm gonna get reading, and I will check in soon. I have just finished Savage Lands. Oh, here it is. Savage Lands by Stacey Marie Brown. I had a great time with this one. It starts out kind of showing Brex's pampered life, and then switches over to her time in the Fae prison, and it is a ride. Once I got into the story, I did not want to put it down at all. Last night I read until I couldn't keep my eyes focused on the words anymore, and then now here it is 11:30 at night, and I have just finished. I was a little surprised at the twist at the end of the book, and I really want to pick up the next one now, which is Wildlands. This series, you can read the Savage Lands series on its own, and then there are three other series that have some connections into it, but you don't have to read them first. So I had a great time with Savage Lands, and I don't know quite yet what I'm gonna rate it. I enjoyed it, but there were some things that I didn't like. So it's not gonna be a 5-star rating for me, but it's still gonna be up there, I think. So I am actually gonna go to bed, and I will figure out what I'm gonna read next tomorrow. We are still working on, or I'm gonna still work on poll picks, just because this is an easy one, and I will let everyone else decide what I'm gonna read tomorrow. So I'm gonna sign off here, and I'll see you soon. Alright, so my poll is in, and I put 3 books on it. I put The Matchmakers of Minnow Bay, Firefly, What Makes Us Mighty, and It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. And the winner, not by much surprisingly, was It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. So I'm going to go on ahead and read that one. It's kind of a nice one because this is my second book that I'm doing for poll pick. So I had Matchmakers of Minnow Bay and What Makes Us Mighty as other prompts. So to have this one as not that prompt is very nice. Or to have one that's not already accounted for in a prompt is nice. But I'm going to get started on this one, and I'm going to check in a little bit. See you soon. Good morning. So it is Sunday morning. I didn't update yesterday much. I had a calm morning until I picked my daughter up from her sleepover, and then we came home and she had a test to do and her room to clean, and a friend had sprung the news on us that they were leaving on Monday for good. They're moving to another state. And I know that they probably chose not to tell their kids when it was, just due to the fact of avoiding meltdowns in their house. But having that last minute notice caused a meltdown in ours. This is my daughter's friend. They've been friends since they were 2, and it's been a struggle. So we had lack of sleep, upset feelings over the move, added to angst over a math test, and angst over cleaning our bedroom. On her end. On my end, we went to go to the goodbye party, and I got a headache behind my right eye. I don't often get those, but normally when they happen, they are pretty debilitating. And then added to that, I don't know if I had a stomach bug or if it was from the headache just causing my stomach to cramp, but I was not feeling well. And my husband had a hard day as well. And so all of that added together just made for a really crappy day. So I escaped a lot into reading. I finished It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. That was the poll pick. And then I have started a thriller. Just because I wanted somewhat of a quick read. And so I started another book. It Starts With Us was good. There are a lot of things in this book that I am sheltered from. So to see the feelings and the experiences that come with it do help to allow me to empathize. Or is it sympathize? One's without experiencing it, and one is having been through it. You know how they feel. But I am really blessed to be in a marriage that does not have domestic violence, and to be able to co-parent. Or, well, I guess it's not co-parenting when you're together, but I don't have to worry about my child being with her dad, because all three of us are together a lot. So, because I wake up next to her dad, I go to bed next to her dad. So there's a lot in that book that I have no personal experience with. And the thing that I love about books is that they can allow you to experience different things without having to actually go through them. So it was very enlightening, and I really enjoyed listening to that one while I had stuff to do yesterday. After that, I started the crime thriller Forget Me Not. This one, Forget Me Not, opens with a serial killer, I guess, who is luring in his victim. And that's like in the prologue. Right after that, we go into the main story where we are following Amanda and her son Kevin, who have inherited things from her first husband. Amanda got married at 19 and had like ran a daycare in her basement for a few years. And her husband at the time decides he wants children. Well, she decides she's not ready at 22 to have children yet. And instead of them coming together and figuring out things, he divorces her. Then later on, she remarries and has a son with this man, and he has a stroke and dies. All of this is in the first 3 or 4 chapters. And a lot of those things don't play a huge role in what's going on. But the first husband, when he dies, leaves everything to Amanda. And they haven't had contact in years. I can't remember how long it was. But everything is left to her. And so she goes back home and is closing out his estate, basically, and deciding if they're going to move or stay there for good, or if it's just a summer vacation. But weird things start happening. And as these things are happening, it's making me wonder what's going on. So I'm going to get back into it. I am about a third of the way, or just over a third of the way through the book. And it's very intriguing to know what's going to happen. You do kind of, with the prologue, you get an idea where the author is going. And you get sprinkles of it, what's going to happen next as you're going through. I have theories. We will have to see if they are right. But I'm going to keep reading and enjoying a little bit of a quiet morning, and then I will check in. I don't know if I'll check in at 2/3 or if I'll just check in at the end and tell you if my theory was right or not. So I will check in a little while. So I think I officially am in migraine territory, but I needed the light for this. I have finished Forget Me Not. It went very much the way I thought it would, with a few with some unseens. Like, I figured out the connection pretty early on, and I was not completely surprised I was not distracted by the red herrings throughout it. So, another poll book finished. If I give Forget Me Not a rating, I'm gonna give Forget Me Not 3.5 stars. Just because, to me, it was a little predictable. Had I known going in what I found out throughout the book. I think due to my personal history, I would have not read the book, but I went ahead. I did read it. I don't regret reading it. It was tastefully handled, but it is not a book for everyone. So now I'm going to switch to Dance for Me. This is a woman who's needs money, and so she joins a local club and I guess is taught a lesson. And so I'm gonna read this one, see where it goes. I did set up an 8-hour poll. In the meantime, I haven't read from this author, so I'm gonna count it as a bullseye, so that I have something there. But I'm pretty sure that we're gonna unlock a building beforehand. So I have another poll running for a pick in 8 hours. I think I can finish most of this one before then, but we're just gonna wait and see. A lot of it depends on if my head ramps up or calms down, but right now I can't handle the light on, so I'm reading on my Kindle and it's somewhat limiting what I'm reading. So I'm gonna knock off some books that were on my Kindle TBR and see where this goes, and I'll check in later. Alright, so yesterday totally sucked. I ended up full-blown migraine, sensitivity to light, upset stomach. It was not a good time for me. I started out the day up here in the office, but by the time my husband got up, I could no longer stand any light at all. So up here in the office, he has a couple lights that I could no longer even handle the tiny light that they give. So I went downstairs and zipped myself in my bed tent and laid all day long. I had to lay on my left side. If I laid on my right side, it just felt like someone was stabbing me in the eyeball. But on my left side, I had no pain. And I couldn't sleep. That was the most annoying part for me, like, ever. I just could not sleep. So I laid there and I read. I finished all of Dance with Me. The only kind of migraine symptom I had from that, I did have to turn my brightness on my Kindle down to like a 6. I already have it in dark mode, so turning it down to a 6 made it really little light, and I had to turn the warmness all the way up. The only symptom I had that way was that it looked like I was reading a book that had water damage. You know how the pages get warped? It looked that way on my Kindle. I know it wasn't really, but that's how my eyes saw it. So I read all of Dance with Me. I enjoyed that one. That one I did not count for the building that we are working on, because I had not planned ahead. And I could only read on my Kindle. I'm probably going to only read on my Kindle again today, just to give myself that extra time to recover. And I'm going to turn off this light here in a minute. Dance With Me, we have a woman who desires, or she dances. That's what she does. She wants to make a career out of it. And so she joins this club and becomes their dancer 2 days a week. The things that we find out very quickly throughout this is she has a lot of childhood trauma from her parents, who are almost like they're crime lords. I didn't, it doesn't fully go into like her or in her parents' history. It just goes into hers. They treated her horribly. So she ends up dancing at this club, but has no desires to be a member of the club, and is very uncomfortable in the club. Her family, while they are crime lords, are very uptight, I guess is the word to. They have very stringent rules, and there are some things you do and some things you don't do, and if you do the things that you shouldn't be doing, you're in trouble. So through this, she ends up, she falls in lust for the club owner, and then through everything, a relationship evolves. All the books in the series seem like they're going to be dark romance with happily ever afters. I may be wrong, but this first one definitely was dark romance with a happily-ish ever after. There are some huge setbacks in the book, and I'm not going to spoil that. Overall, I gave it a 3.7. No, I gave it a 4.25 stars. I enjoyed the storyline. It kept me distracted and allowed me to just lay in bed and not move the whole day. I have now moved on, continuing working on the building that we're working on, to Bratva Sweetheart, and this is a dark mafia romance, and I don't know exactly what to think so far. We have this family of men who are part of the Bratva, and they have a lot of different businesses, but one of them being the strip clubs in the area. I want to say they're in New York, but I don't remember exactly. I'm pretty sure they're in New York for this one. Our main female character is there with her friend with benefits. And they have a weird arrangement, we'll just say. Well, she meets the owner or co-owner, whatever he is, and has a one-night stand with him. Well, that's the very beginning of the book, and we all know that there's going to be continued run-ins. So I am enjoying it. It does hook me in to the story very quickly, and I'm gonna see where it takes me. Hopefully I can keep the lack of pain going for me, but we will have to see how today goes. So I'm gonna keep reading, and I'm gonna turn off this light. I'll check in soon. The last time I updated was on Monday. Monday I was reading Breakfast Sweetheart. Had a lot of fun with that one. That was the second one in the series. I started there because it was in my Kindle library. I was still having a lot of problems with wanting to read physical books just because the overhead lights were causing me a lot of problems due to the migraine on Sunday. So I read Breakfast Sweetheart, and then immediately, as soon as finishing that one, went back and read the first Bratva book with the brothers, Bratva Darling. Okay, I have that in here twice. I'll have to fix that. I enjoyed those two a lot. Bratva Sweetheart is she's a city planner is in, or a city inspector is in a strip club. She runs into the owner and has a good time with him. Then turns out that she is the inspector on his building, one of his family buildings. And so then she wants to date him, but to date him she'd have to recuse herself from his project, and there's no one to take over who is not dirty, which all of that's right there in the beginning. Or I guess dirty is the wrong word. There's no one to take over who is holding it up to standards. The inspector who she took over for was not doing things right. This one goes on, but when I went back and read Bratva Darling, which is the oldest brother, Max, falls in love with the lawyer for a company he is trying to merge with his own. And she does this by letting them do their thing in Russian, and then when she acting like she doesn't know what's going on, and then when it's time to actually sign the paperwork, she gives them the paperwork and says, basically, here's the contract in Russian. And they're all flabbergasted, and Max is totally on board at that point. These two books, Bratva Darling and Bratva Sweetheart, overlap in some of the events. So in Bratva Sweetheart, since I read that one first, I felt that they kind of brushed over part of Laura's story, but when I went back and read Brought the Darling, I knew why. The author is really good about, while giving the other point of views, she doesn't rehash everything. So, great read. Enjoyed it a lot. And that now brings me to where I'm at now, and I am currently reading Cry for Me by K.L. Parker. This is the second book in the Club Avalon series, and the first one was Dance for Me, which I read earlier this week. Or last weekend, I guess, since technically it's the weekend now. I'm enjoying this one. This one is following Jasper and Anarchy, who we met in book 1, and they're coming into a relationship together. One thing I've enjoyed with both the Bratva books and with the Club Avalon books is, while they are dark romance, each one has ended with its own happily ever after. And it even says that in all the descriptions. It's been nice. So while they deal with heavy topics, there is that romance hope, that we expect that come with most romance books. Right now I am 60% into Cry for Me, and we're finding out about Jasper's history that led him to be a sadist. And it's been an interesting read so far. I am enjoying this one. I connected better with the characters in Dance for Me, Brody and Braun, but I think that I'm enjoying the dynamic between Jasper and Anarchy a little better. It's just interesting watching Anarchy kind of come into her own. So, I'm going to get back to reading, and now that I've updated you on what I've read, and I'm going to kind of leave with this thought of, Lexi has done an amazing job with setting up the prompts for this readathon. I was a little worried with what I was kind of wanting to read on my Kindle, that I wouldn't have a lot that fit the prompts, but her prompts are broad enough that you can get any genre just about. I mean, the last 4 books have met a prompt requirement in my reading, both for buildings and for games throughout it. So the readathon is set up so well, and if you're worried that you aren't going to be able to read something, I've read everything from romance, dark romance, comic books, historical fiction. I mean, there has not been anything I have found so far that doesn't match a prompt, even if it's not the prompt that the team is working on at that moment. So, I'm going to get back to reading and try to finish this book so that I can close this vlog out before our final week begins. I'll check in later. Alright, so I have now finished, what was I reading? Cry for Me. enjoyed it, but I could definitely feel myself kind of going a little bit into a slump. I'm going to try to switch it up with my reading and do something that isn't quite as dark to see if that will help. But I enjoyed Cry for Me. There were parts that I kind of expected to happen, and that tends to go with that genre anyway. So I definitely need a little bit of a break. But so far, for escaping the Carnival, I have read 16 books, and I am not going to thumb my nose at that. This has definitely been one of my best reading months ever, definitely for this year. I think I've read twice the most that I've read any of the other months. But I'm going to end this vlog here and get it uploaded so that I can have a week for the end of the month, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.